Have you ever felt it? That strange, nagging feeling that something is off. A block that flickers for a split second. A sound that plays when nothing is there. For me, it started with the flowers. One moment, a field of poppies stretching to the horizon. The next, a blank, sterile patch of white nothingness eating its way into my world. I stood there, pickaxe in hand, as the familiar green of the grass dissolved before my very eyes. It wasn't burning, it wasn't breaking, it was simply unbecoming. The world was being erased, and I was standing right in its path. Panic set in. A cold, sharp dread I'd never known. I started running, not towards anything, but away from the encroaching void. Trees, once tall and proud, thinned into static and vanished. The very air seemed to grow thinner, the silence deeper. The world I knew, the world I had built, was disappearing pixel by pixel. I ran until my hunger bar was nearly empty, my lungs burning. The sun, a perfect, comforting square in the sky, seemed to flicker, its light growing colder. I had to do something, anything, to fight back against this creeping emptiness. My first instinct was to build, to reaffirm my existence against the void. But what's the point of building a wall when the very ground it stands on could be gone in an instant? So I started marking my path, a desperate attempt to leave a trace, a memory. I plunged signs into the ground, hastily scrawling messages. I was here. Remember the trees? Don't let it all fade. It felt foolish, like shouting into a hurricane, but it was all I could do. I filled chests with anything I could grab: cobblestone, saplings, a single red poppy from a field that no longer existed. Little time capsules of a world that was dying. Each sign I placed felt like a victory, a tiny rebellion against the inevitable. But as I ran, I would look back, only to see the signs I'd just planted being swallowed by the white tide. My history was being erased as quickly as I could write it. I stumbled through a village, or what was left of it. The cheerful sounds of villagers were gone, replaced by an eerie silence. Half-built houses hung suspended over the void, their foundations eaten away. A blacksmith's shop was sliced clean in two, the lava in its forge frozen mid-flow before it too dissolved into the white. It was a ghost town, haunted not by spirits, but by the memory of what once was. I saw a lone villager, standing at the edge of his dissolving farm, his arms outstretched as if trying to hold on to the dirt. He didn't run, he just watched, his pixelated face a mask of confusion and despair, before he and his farm flickered and were gone. I was utterly alone. The loneliness was a physical weight heavier than a stack of anvils. Was I the only one left? Was this happening to every world? Or just mine? The questions swirled in my head, a dizzying storm of fear and confusion. I had to find an answer. I couldn't just run forever, pushing through a forest where the leaves were dissolving like mist. I saw something that didn't belong. Deep within the decaying woods, a structure pulsed with a strange, unnatural light. It wasn't built of cobblestone or wood, but of something else entirely glowing, shifting blocks that seemed to phase in and out of existence. They looked like glitches, like a tear in the fabric of the world itself. As I drew closer, a low hum vibrated through the ground, a sound that felt ancient and wrong. These weren't normal ruins. This was something else. This was the source of the decay. I was sure of it. With a deep breath, I stepped inside. The air was thick with the smell of ozone and something else. Something I couldn't name. The walls were covered in patterns, not like paintings, but like lines of code, scrolling and shifting in an alien language. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. This place held a secret to my world's destruction, and maybe, just maybe, its salvation. Walking through the glitching corridors felt like wading through raw data. My vision blurred, and the familiar sounds of Minecraft, gentle chewing of a sheep. The clink of my own footsteps wore, replaced by the crackle of static and the hum of immense power. In the central chamber, a massive, crystalline structure floated, pulsing with the same corrupted light. As I approached, images flashed in my mind. Not my memories, but the memories of the world itself. I saw its creation, not by a player, but by lines of code assembling themselves. I saw countless cycles, worlds being born, lived in, and then erased to make way for the next. This wasn't a world. It was a simulation, a program trapped in an endless loop of creation and deletion, governed by this ancient, automated force. We were all just temporary data, destined to be overwritten. The villagers, the animals, the mountains, even me. My existence was a fleeting part of a cycle I never knew existed. The realization didn't bring comfort. It brought a new, colder kind of horror. My struggle wasn't against a monster or a curse, but against the fundamental law of my own reality. The purpose of the loop was efficiency, renewal. But something had gone wrong. The process was accelerating. The deletions becoming chaotic and aggressive. The system was breaking down, consuming itself in its haste to begin anew. The glitching ruins were a symptom of this decay, a scar left by the corrupted code. And the visions showed me one more thing. The world border, not the invisible wall players sometimes encounter, but the true edge of the simulation's playable area. The final line of code before the program terminated and rebooted. That's where the cycle would complete. That's where this world would finally, completely end. And a new one would begin. Could I stop it? Could I break the cycle? Or was my only option to reach the edge and face the end? Heading. The humming of the crystal grew louder. The glitching more intense. The structure was beginning to destabilize. I had my answer. I had to run. Not away from the void this time, but towards the final curtain. I burst out of the ruins and sprinted, my purpose clear. The compass in my hand spun wildly, useless in this decaying reality. I navigated by instinct, by the pull of the world's end. The landscape was now almost unrecognizable. Jagged chunks of land floated in a sea of white, connected by precarious, half-arrest bridges of dirt and stone. The sky was a chaotic mess of shifting colors, the sun and moon flickering in and out of view simultaneously. It was like running through a broken dream. I leaped across chasms of nothingness, my heart pounding with every jump. Behind me, I could feel the final wave of erasure coming, a silent, unstoppable force sweeping across the last remnants of the world. It was a race against the deletion process itself. Every block that crumbled under my feet, every tree that vanished before my eyes was a reminder that my time was running out. I wasn't just running for my life. I was running to witness the end, to understand what it meant to be erased. The air grew thin and cold. The silence was absolute, and then I saw it. A shimmering, translucent wall stretching up into the broken sky and down into the infinite void below. It wasn't a wall of blocks, but a wall of pure energy, a grid of light that defined the boundary of my existence. The world border. I had made it. I stood there, just a few blocks from the edge, and watched. The last vestiges of the world behind me were finally consumed. A mountain range I once climbed dissolved into static. The last floating island of grass and dirt disintegrated. Everything I had ever known was gone. There was only the white void and this glowing final barrier. I was the last piece of data, the final remnant of a world that no longer was. I felt a strange sense of peace. The fear was gone, replaced by a profound, humbling awe. I was about to see what no one else had seen. I took a step forward, then another, until my hand could almost touch the glowing grid. As the last block beneath my feet dissolved, I didn't fall. I just floated, suspended at the edge of everything, and then, through the translucent wall, I saw it. The future! Faint, wireframe outlines began to appear in the void beyond. The skeletal structure of new mountains, the faint grid of a new village, the basic geometric shape of a new tree. The next world was being rendered. The simulation was rebooting. My existence was the final period at the end of a long sentence, and a new chapter was already being written. I watched as the wireframes grew more solid, as color began to bleed into their forms. It was beautiful. A digital genesis? My own world was gone. My memories about to be wiped. But in its place, life or something like it would begin again. I closed my eyes, accepting the inevitable. A new player would spawn. New adventures would be had. And they would never know about the world that came before. They would never know about me. As the warm light of the new world's sun began to touch my face, everything faded to white, and the cycle continued. Thanks for joining me on this journey to the edge of everything. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what comes next. What do you think happens in the new world? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Until next time, keep exploring, and maybe, just maybe, question the blocks beneath your feet.